In the dead of night, when the world straddles the line between the living and the dead, Liu Thi is forced to embark on a harrowing journey. Her destination is no ordinary market. It's a shadowy realm where ghostly figures whisper, the air hangs heavy with dread, and danger lurks in every corner. Each item on her shopping list isn't just a simple purchase, but a pact, a gamble with forces she barely understands. Every trade, every interaction pulls her deeper into a web of secrets, curses, and the unknowable intentions of both the living and the dead. But in a place where rules blur and spirits watch her every move, will Liu Thi manage to return unscathed? Or will she find herself ensnared in the chilling grip of the marketplace forever? Brace yourself for chapters 5 and 6, a descent into a world where nothing is as it seems, and survival is far from guaranteed. Liu Thi let out a soft sigh. How naive she had been to think the matriarch would simply let her off. Seeing Liu Thi's pale face, Chan tried to comfort her. Don't worry too much, ma'am. I only heard rumors. Maybe they spread those stories to attract curious buyers to the market. Yes, thank you. I understand. Liu Thi replied softly. Hey, let me help you back to your room, ma'am. Then I'll head to the kitchen to find something for your breakfast. You haven't eaten anything all morning. Liu Thi nodded, letting Chan lead her. She needed to return to her room to prepare for the night market. On the way back, she was met with the same disdainful whispers and scornful glances as the day before. If any of you dare gossip about ma'am again, just wait until the master finds out. He'll gouge your eyes out or strangle you himself, Chan declared boldly. Her words silenced the servants, who hesitated to mock Liu Thi openly but continued to whisper behind her back. Liu Thi felt a pang in her heart. It was enough that her husband didn't harm her. How could she dare to hope he might protect her? Night soon fell. To complete the tasks assigned by the matriarch, Liu Thi set off early, departing at 9 o'clock. Before she left, Beach, the matriarch's servant, handed her a lantern, 10 silver taels, 3 stacks of joss paper money, and a stern warning. Ma'am, the matriarch has made it clear. If you don't buy everything, wait for the next market and don't come back until you've succeeded. Or if you have any thoughts of running away, you know what the consequences will be. I understand. I will complete the task to atone for my mistake, Liu Thi stammered. Good. Now go. Follow this path northward, cross the river, pass through a small forest, and you'll reach the market. Liu Thi memorized the instructions, took her bag, and headed out, determined to survive. After walking for half an hour, she reached a river as described. It wasn't too wide, about 30 meters across, but the water flowed rapidly and violently. Strangely, there was no bridge. While she stood there, unsure of how to proceed, a small boat approached from a distance. A frail old man, steering the boat, called out to her, "Need to cross the river, young lady?" Liu Thi, relieved, quickly waved to him. "Yes, please. May I ride with you to the other side?" "Come aboard," the old man replied. Liu Thi hitched up her skirt and waded to the boat. The boat was small and wobbled precariously under their combined weight, nearly tipping over. She finally managed to sit still. The boatman, a man in his 70s with a gaunt face and wearing a torn old hat, asked her, "Ready?" "Yes, sir, we can go now," she answered. The river was chillingly cold. Even with 2 layers of clothing, Liu Thi shivered. She noticed a fish swimming beneath the water, captivated by its unusual beauty, and instinctively reached out to touch it. "Don't put your hand in the water. Do you want to lose it?" the old man snapped. Startled, she pulled her hand back. The fish, unable to trick her, bared its razor-sharp teeth and emitted shrill squeaks, calling for its companions. In no time, the boat was surrounded by a swarm of fish, some even attempting to leap aboard. The old man acted swiftly, taking out a black pouch and scattering bits of red meat onto the water. The fish frantically devoured the bait, momentarily leaving the boat alone. "What are those?" Liu Thi asked, terrified. "Demon fish," the old man explained nonchalantly. "This river once held the bodies of thousands of Song soldiers who invaded our land. Their corpses clogged the river for months. Their restless souls merged with the catfish here, creating these demon fish. Every time we cross, we must feed them red meat to pass safely." Liễu Thi's fear deepened as she realized the red meat wasn't ordinary meat. It was human flesh. Although the fish calmed after eating, they still swam around the boat, waiting for an opportunity. "Do you have any money on you?" the old man asked abruptly. Assuming he meant a fare, Liễu Thi took out a silver tael and handed it to him. "Here you go, sir." The old man glanced at it and shook his head. "Not that kind of money," he said. Liễu Thi suddenly remembered and took out a stack of joss paper money. "This?" she asked. The old man accepted it and immediately threw it into the river. "Every year, people die here. Travelers toss these as offerings to appease the dead, or else." He paused, smirking before continuing. They joined them below. Terrified, Liễu Thi remained silent for the rest of the journey, knowing it was safer not to ask questions. As they neared the other side, the old man spoke again. "You're heading to the yin-yang market, aren't you?" "Yes," Liễu Thi admitted. "You seem like a fortunate soul. Let me give you some advice. When you pass through the forest ahead, don't respond if anyone calls you and don't turn around. Take 10 steps and drop a sheet of joss money each time until you're out of the forest. That's all I can tell you. Once you reach the market, it's up to your wits. Think carefully before acting, or you might bring disaster upon yourself." Liễu Thi listened intently, memorizing his words. Bowing her head, she said, "Thank you for your kindness, sir." "No need to thank me. It's not your time to die yet. I'm just lending a hand. Go early, return early. I'll wait here for you. You can pay me the return fare then." Reaching the riverbank, Liễu Thi waited for the boat to get close before disembarking carefully. Waving goodbye to the old man, she proceeded toward the mist-covered forest ahead. Hesitating briefly, she reminded herself there was no turning back. The matriarch would not spare her, and fleeing would endanger her mother. Mustering her courage, she pressed forward, following the old man's instructions. Every 10 steps, she dropped a sheet of joss paper. The mist seemed to part, forming a path for her. Behind her, she heard the cries of children, voices calling her name, and even felt a tap on her shoulder. Terrified, Liễu Thi kept moving, resisting the urge to look back. Eventually, she emerged from the forest onto a narrow path. After walking for some time, she arrived at the gates of the yin-yang market. From a distance, it looked like any other market, though old and weathered. Contrary to her expectations, the market was bustling with activity despite the late hour. But the visitors weren't ordinary. They were mostly spirits of the dead. Among them, a few living souls wandered cautiously. Liễu Thi, the underworld market. Liễu Thi could distinguish between the living and the dead thanks to the light behind their backs. Those with a dim gray glow, whose bodies seemed slightly transparent and rippling like water disturbed by a pebble, were spirits. Meanwhile, the living had no glow and carried an oil lamp, supposedly to guide their way back to the world of the living and prevent the spirits from pulling them into the afterlife. The underworld market sold a wide array of items, practically everything one could think of. Strolling through the bustling market, Liễu Thi gradually grasped its rules. The sellers could be either the living or the dead. If the seller was living, they dealt in ordinary goods. Living buyers paid with silver or copper coins, while deceased buyers paid by burning offerings on the spot. A large bronze cauldron was usually kept beside the sellers. When the dead bought something, the seller would write their name and burn the goods in the cauldron, delivering the item to them in the afterlife. Payment terms were privately negotiated between them. On the other hand, if the seller was a spirit, buyers had to pay with their karmic merits. It was said that good deeds accumulated karmic merit, which could then be exchanged. In return, the sellers might offer something rare, a prophetic dream, or blessings for success in business, studies, or other endeavors. The first item Liễu Thi purchased was gold paper, as Madame had instructed her to buy 9 bundles. The seller, a middle-aged woman who was alive, simply raised a finger to indicate her price. Understanding her gesture, Liễu Thi handed her a silver ingot. The second item was red cloth. The seller was a young woman who was also alive. When Liễu Thi offered silver, The woman shook her head. She tried paying with paper money, but the seller still refused. "What can I trade with you then?" Liễu Thi asked. The woman finally looked up, and Liễu Thi almost stumbled backward in shock. Half of the seller's face was covered in burn scars and knife wounds, making her appearance terrifying. "A lock of your hair will suffice," the woman said, handing Liễu Thi a pair of scissors and signaling for her to cut it herself. Having no other choice, Liễu Thi set down her bundle, untied her hair, and cut off a lock. "Is this enough?" The seller nodded, handing over 7 squares of red cloth, each the size of her palm, and warned, "Don't let the fabric touch water or it'll be ruined." Cutting her hair left Liễu Thi feeling uneasy, but she had no time to dwell on it. She hurried to buy the next items. The third and fourth items were a wooden horse and a silver needle, sold by an elderly living woman. When the woman heard Liễu Thi was buying these particular items, she gave her a strange look and asked, "Are you sure you want to buy a silver needle and a wooden horse?" "Yes, I'm buying them for someone else," Liễu Thi replied. Seeing her honest face, the old woman gave her a piece of advice. "You're young, so do your best to accumulate merits and avoid doing or abetting evil deeds. Retribution comes swiftly, and you won't be able to undo it." Confused, Liễu Thi asked, "Could you tell me what these items are for?" But the old woman waved her off. "Helping you would ruin someone else's plans, and they won't spare me for that. Take the needle and horse. You don't need to pay." Seeing the woman's determination, Liễu Thi thanked her and moved on to look for the last item on her list, a 3-legged toad. But after combing through the market 3 times, she couldn't find it. It seemed this item wasn't sold by the living, but required a transaction with the dead. Mustering her courage, Liễu Thi stopped at the stall of a young deceased man and asked, "Do you sell 3-legged toads?" The man looked surprised that she could see him. Most of his living customers were exorcists or shamans, but she seemed like neither. Intrigued, he asked, "You can see me?" Liễu Thi quipped, "If I couldn't, how would I be talking to you?" "Fair enough. Yes, I have a 3-legged toad," he replied. "Then sell it to me." Amused by her straightforwardness, he teased, "You won't be able to afford it. It's expensive, but you're so beautiful. How about marrying me instead? I'm not demanding. I'll even bless you so you can marry someone living, as long as you let me visit occasionally. When you die, you can come down here and be my wife." Annoyed by his jest, Liễu Thi pretended to leave. "Well, do you want to sell it or not? I'll find someone else if you don't." All right, I'll sell it," he chuckled. "But it'll cost you 10 years of karmic merit, equivalent to 30 years of your lifespan." Shocked, Liễu Thi tried bargaining. "Can't you lower the price?" He shook his head. "No discounts." Feeling pity for her, the man offered an alternative. "Or you can fulfill my last wish from when I was alive." Relieved, Liễu Thi agreed, thinking anything was better than losing 30 years of her life. "All right, tell me what it is," she said. He handed her a slip of paper. "Write down your lunar birth date. I'll visit you in a dream to explain. As for the 3-legged toad, catch a live frog when you cross the river on your way back. I'll handle the rest." Suddenly, the sound of hooves echoed in the distance. The man grew alarmed. "Hurry! It's the underworld patrol. You don't have a pass, so if they catch you, they'll take your soul." Urging her to leave, he said, "Go back the same way you came. Run fast. As long as you reach the ferry, you'll cross the border to the living world and they can't follow." Terrified, Liễu Thi fled. The man stayed behind to delay the patrol, giving her a chance to escape. As she approached the riverbank, she sprinted with all her might, praying to reach safety before it was too late.